Today let's start with chapter 1 of this Abhidhamma Kusha Bhasya by Vasubandhu. And chapter 1 has the name the Dhatus. In this chapter we shall learn for example, conditioned and unconditioned factors, pure and impure factors. We will learn the 5 skandhas, the 12 ayatanas, 18 dhatus, and the 75 factors. In the next lecture, we will also learn the categories, different categories of the 18 dhatus based on their different qualities, properties, or characteristics. So this lecture we shall focus on the conditioned, pure, unconditioned, impure, and also the skandhas, ayatanas, dhatus. Okay. First, let's explain what is conditioned. When we say a factor is conditioned, it actually means it is arising and ceasing all the time. Of course, it is dependent on the causes and effects and causes and the conditions for this factor to arise and for the factor to cease and for it to maintain this kind of status. It's like lightning. Lightning will not happen if there is no electrical charge in the cloud or reach to a certain voltage level. And when that electrical charge is gone, the lightning will stop. So this is conditioned. This is a typical conditioned factor. But basically, all the factors we mention in our daily life, they are conditioned factors, because they are all arising and ceasing in nature. But why are all conditioned phenomena classified into 5 categories? Because usually when we read the not just Abhidhamma, when we read the sutta, the Buddha, the masterpieces in Buddhism, the 5 skandhas are usually mentioned. So why are they classified into 5? According to Jamyang Lotta Wampo, the author of the Tibetan commentary of Abhidhamma Kusha Bhasya, the reason is that ordinary beings, not the noble beings, ordinary beings, they are attached to these 5 aggregates and considering them as self and mind. If we take a closer look, what he means is that first, the consciousness. Most ordinary beings will attach to consciousness as self. Like when we say, my mind is where I am. And this is a typical attachment to consciousness. And the next aggregate is form, or with what we call material in this world. And they are attached to internal and external forms, and considering them relate to self. For example, my eyes, my noses, my ears, my laptop, my smartphones, my desk, and so on. So this is the aggregates of form, the rupa. The next aggregate is sensation. Well, ordinary beings like us, we also cling to sensations as experienced by self. For example, we often say, okay, this is something that makes us feel pleasant, or makes it really a pain for us. So these are different sensations. We also have this conception, this aggregate of conception, like when people cling to the ability to establish and apply names and concepts. For example, this is man, or this is a woman, this is blue, this is yellow. We just intend to apply different names and concepts. And the last one is from the aggregator formations. So it is its attachment to actions such as performing good or evil deeds. It's a very wide concept, and we shall examine in detail what the aggregate formations include in a later time. And the next important concept is about pure and impure. When we say a factor is impure, it actually means that it will help increase our defilements, and it implies retention and affliction. What kind of retention? It will keep us in samsara. We cannot get rid of this samsara easily because of these impure factors. It will increase our contaminants or defilements. That's basically the definition of impure. It's a factor, or there are factors able to increase our defilements, and these contaminants are the close causes to generate the skandhas, or maybe more precisely, the contaminants are the close causes to generate those impure skandhas, and these are all associated to the truth of suffering and that of the origin. And people become attached to impure dhammas ceaselessly, like every day, among themselves and harm each other. And of course, by doing that, they also hurt themselves. For example, this could happen between individuals, or among families, or between countries, or peoples, or destinies, and so on. So now let's take a closer look on these categories of, for example, the impure, pure, and conditioned, unconditioned. How do they relate to each other? Because they are different concepts, but they do have overlapping. So we can see in this diagram that all dhammas can be classified as two types, impure and pure. The impure is the 5 aggregates of clinging, and they are, as we mentioned, they're either the truth of suffering or the truth of the origin. While pure dhammas, or pure factors, they include the truth of the past, they include the cessation due to the discernment, which is actually the truth of cessation. It also includes space and cessation not due to discernment. We shall explain these two cessations I think we have already explained these two cessations and to the space as the 3 unconditioned factors in lecture 1. So the important thing here is that we can see the conditioned factors, mainly meaning the 5 aggregates. They include the truth of suffering, the truth of the origin, and the truth of the past. These 3 are conditioned factors, while unconditioned factors are the last 3, as we already explained. So now the important thing is that we need to understand and remember the range of one concept as compared to the other. For example, when we say all dhammas, obviously it's the widest. It includes all dhammas, as the name it suggests. And it's when we say the noble truth, we have 4 noble truths. Everybody knows, right? The truth of suffering, the origin of the past, and of the cessation. It is slightly narrower than all dhammas because these 4 noble truths do not include the space or the cessation not due to discernment. And when we say 5 aggregates, it's slightly narrower than the 4 noble truths because it further excludes the cessation due to discernment. Yeah, because cessation due to discernment it's unconditioned, so it will not be included in the 5 aggregates. And 5 aggregates is a concept wider than the 5 aggregates of clinging. which is impure. Okay? The five aggregates also include the truth of the path, which is conditioned but pure factors. So this is the key. This is the key difference. So we need to understand the different ranges of these terminologies, so we will not be confused when we read them in different in those literatures. Now let's take a closer look into the five skandhas, and we start from the form, from the material, or in Sanskrit, the Rupa skandha. There are 11 in total. First, we have the five sense faculties. And they are the eye, the ear, the nose, the tongue, and the body. But be aware that they're not really what we they're not really what we say in our daily life about our eyes, our ears, or nose, or stuff like that. They are, according to Sarvastivada, they are clean and transparent factors that cannot be seen by our naked eyes. And so they are actually the entities that are really functioning. But it's not what we usually say about our body parts. And we also have the five objects, which are the visible form, the sound, the odor, the taste, and the tangibles. So they have correlations in between. Like our eyes, like the eye apprehend the visible form. So like we see, for example, we see the colors, we see the shapes. And the ear apprehends the sound. So we hear the sound. The nose apprehends the odor, so we can smell the odors. And the tongue apprehends the taste, so we can taste. Also, the body apprehends the tangibles, like our body can feel different touches, the touching touchables. So that's the tangibles, which we explain more. And apart from these five sense faculties and the five objects, we also have a very unique, very special rupas, very special form, which is the non-informative. And in Sanskrit, they call it avijñapti. We will explain that later in this chapter and also in chapter 4. It's a very important piece in Sarvastivada's theories. Now let's take a closer look in the visible form. That's what our eyes can see directly. We have 12 different colors and 8 shapes. And in the categories of colors, we have the primary and we have secondary. The primary colors are cyan, yellow, red, and white. Cyan is in science. Cyan it's a color between blue and green. So the secondary colors are sunlight, illumination, shadow, darkness, cloud, mist, smoke, and dust. So here we separate different lights. The light from the sun is sunlight. All other lights, we don't call it, we give it another name. We call them illumination. For example, the light from torch, from the moon, from stars, from the candles, and so on. They are all called illumination. And shadow, for example, shadow from the trees, or shadow of a building, and so on. If you put something in a shadow, you can still see through it. You can still see that thing. But the next darkness, of course, you cannot see through. If you put something in darkness, you cannot see it with your naked eyes. And the next one is cloud and mist. Mist is like fog, so we all know what it is. Smoke and dust, we're also very familiar. They can differ in color and in shapes. Smoke is like from the fire. So these are colors, primary and secondary. We also have 8 shapes: long, short, high, low, square, round, even and uneven. We all know what it means, from long to round. And when it comes to even shapes, it means that the shapes that are regular and symmetrical, for example, and uneven is the opposite, irregular and not symmetrical. So these are the visible forms. And then when it comes to sound, we have actually different way of categorization. In this one, we say we can classify them from primary elements, like from the earth, the water, the fire, and the wind, forming the sense faculties. And the sound from these primary elements can be agreeable or disagreeable, meaning that it can be enjoyable or we don't really enjoy them. So the second category is from other primary elements that are not forming the sense faculties, and also it can be agreeable or disagreeable. We can have sound belonging to living beings, like sound from us or sound from animals that are agreeable or disagreeable. And then we also have sound from not belonging to living beings. For example, from mountains, from rivers, oceans, and so on. That can be enjoyable or can be agreeable or disagreeable. We have actually other classifications as well. For example, in Chinese commentaries, sometimes we say that there are 8 kinds of sound. First, we classify them into 2 major types, that either from living beings or not from living beings. And in that category of from living beings, it can be either with certain content and meaning, or without certain content and meaning. And in that category of with certain content and meaning, it can be agreeable, it can be disagreeable. For example, the sound of praising someone, when you praise someone, or the sound of Buddha's teaching, these are agreeable. These make people enjoy. So they are agreeable sound with certain content and meaning, and they are from living beings. Well, if you are, for example, if the sound of cursing someone with harsh and dirty words, that is those kind of sound also have certain content and meaning, and from living beings, just disagreeable. And sound from living beings that are not with certain content or meaning, that are agreeable. For example, some rhythms when a person is beating a drum, when they're playing the drums, that could be agreeable because it has certain rhythms. The disagreeable sound, not with certain content or meaning from living beings, could be that kind of, for example, someone is slapping on the other's face. Disagreeable. Sound not from living beings that have certain content and meaning. For example, chanting, the sound of chanting sutra, the sound of chanting the Buddhism masterpieces from a radio. So it's not from a living being, but it has a certain content and meaning, and it can be enjoyable. It is agreeable. And if you see someone cursing in television, you see that, you can hear the sound. That is a sound with certain content and meaning that is disagreeable. and not from a living and not from living beings, right? Because they are in television, right? Is they're not living beings in daily life, in reality. So and not from living beings and not with certain content or meaning, and that is agreeable. Could be sound from spring waters flowing in the forest, or the sound of bamboo trees, the sound of the leaves of bamboo trees. Sound that is not from living beings, not with certain content or meaning, and disagreeable could be, for example, sound of flooding or the sound of explosions. Yeah, so that's about sound. When it comes to odor, we can also classify them in this way. We can say first the odor is good or bad. But of course, when we say good or bad, we basically say it from the perspective of human beings. Because some odors we think it's good, we think it smells really good, but it's not really for animals. And likewise, some odors that animals like, we don't really like, we think it's bad. So, and in the good odors, it can be equal or unequal. By saying equal means, what we mean is that this kind of odor is helpful, is beneficial to our body. For example, some high quality incense that are used and burned in temples, or the odors from some good food. They are good and they are also beneficial to our body. Unequal and good odor could be means something that is smell good but harmful to our body. For example, some air fresheners, some artificial flavorings, possibly, and we also have some plant extracts and organic vapors that may cause illusion. So these odors may smell good, but they are unequal, so they can hurt our bodies. In the bad odors, it could also be equal or unequal. The equal, for example, from some traditional Chinese medicine. Of course, not all of them are smell bad, but some of them. For example, the one I took when I was a high school student. It was simply disgusting just by smelling it. You want to vomit, but it is good to my body, so it is equal. And the bad and unequal odor, for example, those kind of odor from a garbage, from drainage, and so on. Yeah, so this is about the odors. About the taste, we say we have 6 different kinds of taste: sour, sweet, bitter, spicy, salty, and astringent. We are very familiar with these tastes. We have probably experienced all of them. The astringent is relatively less familiar, but it's most likely the taste from unripe persimmons, that kind of fruit. You can buy it in the shops when they're red and they taste sweet, but when they're green, when they're not ready to eat, they have this very strong astringent taste. From the English translation of Abhidhamma Kosha Bhashya, or from the commentary translated by Master Xuanzang in Chinese, the commentary of Vasubandhu, and also the commentary of Samgavata, the last state, the last kind of taste was mild. But here I put it as astringent, because mild, as I think, is like almost like plain water. It doesn't have some apparent taste, but just want you to know that there are 2 versions about the last kind of taste. About tangibles, we have the 4 primary elements: the earth, the water, the fire, and the wind. These are tangibles that can produce further forms. And we also have 7 other tangibles that are produced from these 4 primary elements. And they are smoothness, roughness, lightness, heaviness, cold, hunger, and thirst. Smoothness is something that can feel when you touch it. For example, when you touch it with your finger, you feel it's, you may feel comfortable. Yeah, like a marble or like a silk or something like that. And roughness is quite the opposite. When you touch it, you feel uncomfortable. For example, if you walk bare feet on some sharp stones or stuff like that, it's roughness. And lightness and heaviness. Lightness, it means it has no apparent weight, while heaviness is the opposite. It has an apparent weight. It can easily be weighed. Fabao, Master Fabao of China, he commented that if something cannot drag a scale downwards, or it has a power to uplift, to go upwards, like the smoke, then it is lightness. It has this tangible of lightness. And on the opposite, if something can drag the scale downwards, meaning it can be easily weighed, then it has this tangible of heaviness. And about cold, we say that it is due to excessive water and wind in someone's body, for example. Then they are in need of warmth. That is cold. And hunger, it is due to excessive wind in stomach. Then someone with this hunger, with this tangible hunger, they will need to eat some food. And the last one is thirst. That is due to excessive fire. So will be in need of water or drinks. Some says, there is a saying that excessive water and fire will give rise to smoothness, will make it smooth. Excessive fire and wind will make it light. And excessive earth and wind will make something rough. And excessive earth and water will make something heavy. We do have an example in our daily life. For example, when someone died, the fire and wind in his body, in her body, will be gone. Then the dead body will be heavy. There is a comment from Master Pu Guang of China in his commentary with the question that why, as we see here, there's smoothness and roughness. It's a pair, right? And the lightness and heaviness is also a pair. Hunger and thirst, it's also a group. But cold is listed separately. So the question is why the heat is not listed or mentioned here as contrast to cold. And Master Pu Guang said, because heat is the fire element. It's already mentioned in the 4 primary elements, so there's no need to mention it separately again. And then people may ask further, but cold is water. It should not be mentioned as well. And Master Pu Guang said, no, it is different. Cold is not water. Because water is a kind of liquidity and wettability, not cold. And water is not necessarily cold. So this is some additional comments from Master Pu Guang. Yeah, we will continue with this non-informative.